fourth hour. Last thing we talked about in the last section, guys, we are still in the first 100 days of the Roosevelt administration. Okay, they're going to do a lot. Okay, so we've seen the SEC, the TVA, the CCC. Now we get to the Aaa Agriculture Adjustment Act. This I covered yesterday. I asked a question about farmers today. Do any of you guys have farm families? Did anybody talk to their families about, did they get any government subsidies for their farms? Did you ask? Anybody ask at home? Okay, I had a student second hour that asked, because they have farm in their family and stuff like that. He said, yeah, there's some things that their farm is connected to the government, things like crop insurance that you buy from the federal government. A lot of times, if you live along the coastline, you get flood insurance through FEMA, okay, which is Federal Emergency Management.
What about oil?
Huh?
Oil?
Oil subsidies.
Yeah. That thing?
Yeah, I think there is subsidies for oil as well, which I think is crazy. Personally, I mean, I think oil sells for a certain amount of money. You sell it. What do you need the government for? We give subsidies to our corn farmers, you know, to grow corn for ethanol. Okay, the wind turbines, those are all subsidized by the government. Solar panels, these industries are all subsidized by the government. Okay, it's interesting. But with farms, ever since this time period, what Maria said was like crop insurance, like if there's a bad crop or prices fall below a certain level, the government like chips in and helps, that sort of thing. That's what she preferred. So, and maybe they do that for oil. I don't know. Okay, so you got the AAA. Now you got the NRA, not the National Rifle Association. The National Industrial Recovery Act creates the National Recovery Administration, the NRA. Okay, guys, this is a big one. Now I have an article here, which is actually a book review. You guys know about book reviews. This is a book review over a book called Liberal Fascism. And you guys remember when I did political spectrum in government class? Moderates. And you go to the far right, we got fascism, right? And then I showed you the one that looked like this. There's the moderates, conservatives, liberals, and then down here, communism and fascism meet in the middle, right? So the author of this book claims that fascism doesn't always come from the right, that it can come from the left as well. Okay? Now, he defines fascism as supercharged nationalistic statism. Statism. What do you think that means? Statism. Means the state is in control. Okay, when the government takes control, statism. Does that make sense? Maybe? You guys know what nationalism is, right? It's like supercharged patriotism. So when we look back at prior to World War I, what were some of the causes of World War I? Militarism, nationalism, imperialism, right? So this nationalism is when people, you know, rally around their flag, that their country, their nation, their ethnicity is stronger than the country over here. And they're proud of their country, and they have that, you know, that energy towards nationalism. Okay, a lot of people call Trump a nationalist, right? He was America first, right? You guys follow me on this? Just head shake works. Okay. Now, could Trump, and you've probably all heard Trump called a fascist, right? And you ever hear that? I hear that. Because I pay attention, you know. So I hear that, right? So Is Trump a fascist? Was Trump a statist? Did he want more government control, more regulations on business, or did he want less control, less regulation on business? It's one of the first things he did when he became president was cut regulations to get the government out of business's way, to allow them to grow, not to restrict them with regulations. That's not statism, guys. That's the opposite of statism. That's more of a free market. Follow me? So Trump doesn't fit this mold. Was he a nationalist? Yes. He was a populist, national populist, but not a fascist. You call him a lot of things, but fascism doesn't work. Okay? And I'm sure you've heard him called a lot of things, right? So, this term fascism, when we look at this program, guys, in the 1930s, the word fascism was not a dirty word. Now, when we think of fascists, we think of Mussolini, who was the first fascist. Mussolini did not bring democracy to Italy in 1922. He brought fascism. That was a true and false question on the test. Remember? Do you know what the Nazi Party stands for? Because the Nazis were fascists, yes? Do you know what Nazi stands for? We'll learn it in here. It's in the notes later on. It's called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the NSDAP, the Nazi Party. National Socialist. Which side of the spectrum is socialism? It's on the left. Okay? Now, what fascism does, guys, is it controls industry. In communism, right, there's no private property. The government owns everything, or everybody owns everything together. You with me? In fascism, you have private industry. You have private ownership. But you have government control over that industry. This is what the Nazis did. And by 1936, guys, Germany was out of the Depression. They held the Olympics in Berlin in 36, and the world came in to Berlin and saw how Hitler had transformed Germany. There were no unemployed. There were no homeless on the streets. There were no bread lines like in America. And people said, hey, why can't we get some of that fascism over here on this side of the Atlantic? People praised Hitler. No, he didn't like Jews. But I don't really like Jews either, so who cares? That's how a lot of people felt. That's how Charles Lindbergh felt. So some of Roosevelt's advisors said, hey, let's try some of these type of programs. The NRA. Okay, now guys, this is going to be struck down as unconstitutional. Okay, the whole program will be unconstitutional. Okay, as we'll go through. But when you look at fascism, guys, it's a difficult term to define. Okay, but generally there are four characteristics that you find with fascism. Okay, one, a strong leader. When Hitler took over, okay, one of the first things he did was ban all other political parties. So they call it Nazi Germany. It's the Nazi Party ruled Germany. Okay, Hitler was the head of that party. He was the leader. They called him the Führer. The Führer, that means the leader. Okay. Two, you need a crisis. A constant crisis helps. Okay, this could be an economic crisis. This could be a political crisis. This could be a military crisis. You just need a crisis. And so with that crisis, the leader is going to act. Action. Now, it doesn't really matter what the action is, it just requires action. And fourth, generally you're going to find some sort of symbol that is used to perpetuate this fascism. For the Germans, it was what? The swastika. For the Italians, it was the black shirts. Okay? Now, what this author claims is that there are times in American history where we use fascism. Let's go to the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln, in this crisis known as the Civil War, which is the biggest crisis maybe we've ever faced as a nation, what did he do? He suspended what? Habeas corpus, which would allow you to detain people, to imprison people without a trial. Okay? Which denies you your civil liberties. Yes? Violates your Bill of Rights. During World War II, Roosevelt rounded up Japanese Americans on the west coast of the United States and put them in camps. Again, suspending habeas corpus. These people were not convicted of a crime. They were not even charged with a crime. Yet they were rounded up and placed in camps. When there's a crisis, this allows for more power to go to the executive, to the leader. Okay? After 9/11, Congress passed the Patriot Act. Any guys heard of the Patriot Act? The Patriot Act was to defend ourselves against terrorism. But what they did, by using this crisis, they gave more power to the national government to spy on the American people, to search your home, your computer, to spy on you without your knowledge. And if you were thought to have links to terrorism, they could search your home without your knowledge. And if you found out they searched their home, it was illegal for you to even tell anybody they had searched your home. Again, violating your civil liberties, the Fourth Amendment. Okay? The Patriot Act did some really interesting things. It was a reaction to a crisis. The leader became powerful, W. Bush. The action restricted your civil liberties, and the symbol was the American flag. Am I calling Bush a fascist? Am I calling Roosevelt and Lincoln fascists? No. What I am describing, I believe, is temporary fascism that can be found in a crisis. Now this, the NRA, fits this mold very well. The Blue Eagle, guys, this is a beauty pageant. They had parades. I mean, they sold this to the American people with propaganda. Okay? You had people hanging things, we do our part of the NRA. Now, this is what the government did, or tried to do. They're going to have a code book for every industry. Okay? You own the company. You own the construction company. You own the retail outlet, but the government controls it. It tells you what you can produce, how much you can produce, how much you can sell it for, how many hours your employees can work, and how much you must pay them. Now, you guys had government last semester. You know a little bit about the Constitution. Does the U.S. government have this power to take over private industry and run it for them and tell them how much they have to pay people, what they can produce, how much they can produce, and control the prices? No, they don't. This will be struck down as unconstitutional, as I said. Okay? Now, should we be frightened by this? It worked for the Germans. It worked for the Italians. It was a crisis. History needs to teach us things, guys. This teaches us that, hey, maybe this was an overreaction. We do have the law of the land called the Constitution, and the government has to stay in the bounds of that Constitution. Yes, it's supposed to, but sometimes when we get in a crisis, we ignore the Constitution, okay? Which we have multiple times already. Okay, the Emergency Banking Act, shutting down the banks, unconstitutional. Taxing manufacturers to pay farmers not to plant crops, unconstitutional. Attaching an amendment to a bill that legalizes beer and wine, while the 21st or the 18th Amendment is still the law of the land, where there's prohibition of alcohol, allowing beer and wine to be drank before that is repealed, is unconstitutional. Some of these are not real big offenses. Some of these are larger offenses. Okay. Now, in addition, this administration, Section 7A of the Act will give workers the right to organize in unions. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Now, a lot of the unions didn't think it went far enough. Some of the unions will criticize it and calling the NRA a national runaround. They didn't think it went far enough to protecting unions. But the guy in charge of this is going to be a former World War general, okay, who is not easy to work with. Do any of you guys have families that run their own businesses? I mean, some of you guys have farm families, right? So you tell the farmers, right, kill your pigs, and then this is what you're going to plant. This is when you're going to plant it. This is how much you're going to charge for your crop. This is what, if you're in construction, this is the type of construction you're going to do. This is how much you're going to pay your employees. Government control. Okay. Hugh Johnson, another H, because we got a bunch of H's in this one, man. Okay. We got Harry's, Henry's, Huey's, yeah. He's difficult to work with. Okay. Small businesses are going to get swallowed up here. Okay. The government is controlling the marketplace, trying to control the marketplace. And so it's easier to do that with big businesses than it is with small businesses. Okay. So yes, guys, this is something else. Now, as I said, unconstitutional. This right here, guys, the minimum wage. We have that today, right? Yeah. Now, this was struck down in 1936 as unconstitutional, or 1934, I think. So the minimum wage was declared unconstitutional. How do we have it today? If it was declared unconstitutional, states can have their own, but we do have a national minimum wage. States can go above it, and some do. Now, the 9 justices that were on the Supreme Court when they ruled this unconstitutional, are they still on the court? No, they're all dead. Okay, there's new people on the Supreme Court, right? And they may view the Constitution differently, interpret it differently. Yes, and they do. There's a question on your homework about this. Okay. So check out the fight with the Supreme Court with Roosevelt. Okay, it gets ugly. All right. You may have heard about the Democrats talking about packing the court when they took over this time, adding more justices to the Supreme Court. And who would get to choose those justices? Joe Biden would. Okay? That's one way for one branch of government to control another branch of government. Okay? Which was frowned upon by this document over here. Okay? Separation of powers. Checks and balances, not collusion between branches, or one branch taking over the other. Okay. This is pretty interesting. I'm going to post that article for you guys to look at. And again, I'm not calling Roosevelt a fascist. This was not, like I said, it was not a dirty name. It was not a dirty word in the 1930s. Okay, it's become that. Fascism has become that. And most people don't even know what it means. They just like to use it as an epithet. You know, it's fascist. So you can just marginalize people by calling them fascists. Conservatives do it with socialists. It's a socialist. Yeah, both sides do it. But in that case, sometimes, you got to understand, what does it mean? What does fascism entail? Okay. All right. Hopefully you're smarter for that, for knowing that. Okay. Now, if you weren't here and you didn't watch the video, you just missed out on all that, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm not accusing anybody in here of not watching the videos. For all I know, you guys are all watching. And I can't see your faces, so it's hard to read your eyes. Okay, let's move on to the PWA. Now, Hoover did some of this. Hoover did the Public Works Administration. Hey, you guys want to talk about the minimum wage? Because Joe Biden wants to raise it to what? $15 an hour. Basically doubling it, right? You guys for that? Come on. How many of you guys have jobs? How much you making an hour?
One job make 9. The other one's like 7.75.
Ooh. 10.25? Now you do some nursing stuff, right? That's what they're paying you? How long have you been doing that? A year? Are you a lifeguard?
Yeah, that's what makes.
That's the little one. See the YMCA?
Well, it's 8.
Or a pool?
Fluctuating.
Okay, so they know that there's a lot of young people that want to be lifeguards. So if you're like, nah, I'm not working for that. I want $10 an hour. Just say, that's fine, we'll go find somebody else. You know what I mean? There's a skill to your labor. There's a skill to your labor. With lifeguards, you got to be able to, rescue somebody. You got to prove that, right?
Take like a 3-day class.
Yeah, you got to do the class. Okay. Now, what's the other job?
Hostess.
A hostess at.
Success.
Oh yeah. So they pay you what?
9.
Yeah, it's not bad. Be the face of the organization. First thing people see. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Now, if the government made Success pay $15 an hour,
Awesome.
okay, it'd be great, right? But they may decide, we don't need a hostess.
Yeah,
Or they say, we'll just have our waiters do it. We're not going to pay somebody $15 an hour. So you lose your job. How's that working out? Because that's going to happen, right? So like if you're a cashier, yeah, they're already doing it, right? You go to Dillon's, you use the self-checkout, right? They got 6 self-checkouts. one person working. Yeah? Uh-huh. They'll find a way. Okay, because they're not going to want to pay. That's unskilled labor. Hostess is unskilled labor. All you have to do is smile and say, how many tonight? And find them a table and be nice. Yes?
Yeah.
Good smile. Right? That's not a skill. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to criticize you. Okay? Now, your skills. Okay, are you drawing blood yet? You're wiping, cleaning people. Yeah. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah, I know.
She's getting experience, right? And that's the thing about the minimum wage. When you go to get a job, they say, what kind of experience do you have? Yes? Now, if they raise minimum wage to $15 an hour, is it going to be harder or easier for young people, teenagers, to get an entry-level, unskilled job to gain some experience? What happens to the person that's making $15 an hour now? Do they go to $20 an hour or $25 an hour? So the person that's making $15 an hour has some skills. So you're going to put the unskilled worker at their pay rate, and the skilled worker is going to be making the same thing as the unskilled worker. The price of pizza. Now, 6S is already expensive, yes?
Yes.
Like crazy expensive.
Yeah.
We're raising the minimum wage of all their employees to $15. How many hostesses do you have?
3.
Uh-huh.
3.
Yeah. So what's going to happen to the price of food at 6S? They're going to pass that on to the consumer. If you own a pizza joint, Gambino's, what's that one right over here? Nola's Pizza, right? You got to pay all those people $15 an hour. To do what? Check people out? Make pizza? $15 an hour? Now, if it was designer pizza or something, you know, and you made all the dough from hand, you're like a chef, well, you're going to be making more than that anyway. Flipping burgers, frying French fries, they'll make automated burgers and automated French fries. They'll get rid of the employees. I worry about teenagers. You know who I really worry about? Are inner city teenagers, African American teenagers, Hispanic teenagers. How are they going to get any experience? That's what I worry about. Now, philosophically, guys, you may disagree with me, but I don't think there should be a minimum wage period. You pay somebody what their value is. I'm a teacher. You know what they say about teachers, right? Those that can, do. Those that can't, teach. This is called self-deprecating humor. Okay. All right. And in a sense, there's truth to that. Okay. I tried it in the private sector. I own my own business. I'm a statistic. I'm a failed business owner. Okay. And I really wanted to coach baseball. So this is one of the best ways I could do it. And then I fell in love with teaching. Okay. But we don't place a high value on teachers in this country. We don't pay teachers well. Okay? You're paid on your value. Now, my wife, she's a chemical engineer. She's really smart. She also has an MBA. She's got 30 years of experience. And she is of great value to Koch Industries. She solves problems for them. You know what I mean? They say, okay, this is an issue we're having at the plant. We need to fix it. Or we need to expand this plant. How do we do that? That's what she does. And there's not many people that can do that. So they pay her a lot of money to do that. Do you understand? That's her value. That's capitalism. Now, if you could pay inner city youth $5 an hour for an entry-level job at 16, and maybe have a minimum wage for 16-year-olds, and a minimum wage for 18-year-olds, and a minimum wage for 20-year-olds. That might make more sense. But you've got to provide those opportunities for kids to get work experience, to learn responsibility. If I'm an employer on the west side of Wichita, and I'm looking for teen employees, dude, I'm looking at Bishop Carroll High School. Kids that know how to show up on time. Kids that know how to control their behavior. Kids that know how to wear a uniform. I'm hiring Bishop Carroll kids. I don't have to train them. They're already trained. Sorry. Guys, African-American teen unemployment in this country, you're looking at 50%. How do you expect kids to get out of a bad situation when they can't get any experience? But people don't think about that. You got to think about the whole picture here. Now, when I was in Italy 2 summers ago, you know, our waiters and waitresses here, they don't make minimum wage. There's a minimum wage for waiters. They live basically off the tips, right? You guys are aware of this? So when you go out to eat, you should tip. Minimum 15%. Right? Now, when I went to Italy, we asked, are we supposed to tip? And they said, it's not expected. Because in Italy, guys, they pay their waiters a living wage. And in some cases, it's an insult to them if you tip them because you're saying that they are beneath you and you need to give them some handouts. But they pay them a living wage, so they don't get tips. Now, you can tip over there, especially if you're an American. Americans are notorious for it. And this is one of the things, you know, Europeans and Americans, they don't really hold us in high regard. Okay. Is what it is. Okay. But they have a different system over there. Okay. They use socialism. Okay. Everybody pays taxes. So if you have this democratic socialism, guys, everybody, the poor pay taxes, the rich pay taxes, and everybody pays more in taxes to do all these programs. Okay. The government controls the health care, so the employee doesn't have to pay for the health care because the government does. Does that make sense? They don't pay payroll taxes like we do. So like if you hire somebody, remember that 6.2% for Social Security that you have to pay as an employer. It's a different system. Okay. So some people in this country, your AOCs and Bernie Sanders folks, they feel like there should be a living wage, like the minimum wage you should be able to live off of. But the 3 people that I talk to that have jobs in here that are 17, 18 years old do not work for minimum wage. They work above minimum wage. Most people don't work for minimum wage. Now, if you're 16, you go work at McDonald's, they're going to start you at minimum wage. But this is something you should always remember. You guys, I would hire any of you guys in an instant. Any of you. I know you. I know who you are. And you have value. And your employee should know your value, your employer, okay? And if you have more value than the person working next to you that's making the same amount as you, then you need to make your employer aware of that and ask for a raise. Kinsey, are you better than some of the other nurses that help out where you work? Okay. When you get that experience and you show that, hey, I'm the best person at this job, this place, then you should ask for a raise. I know it's hard to go in and ask for a raise. Now, I don't do it here because I know what the response will be. go somewhere else if you want more money. I am a steward. Okay, so part of my stewardship is to make less money. That's what they're going to tell me. Okay, and I can go to the public schools and make more money, quite a bit more money. In the public schools, how do they pay you? They pay the teachers based on number of years of experience and what's your degrees, how many degrees you have. Now, you could be the worst teacher in the building, have 30 years of experience and 2 master's degrees, maybe a doctorate, and be making the most of any teacher in that building and be the worst teacher in the building. They don't pay you on your value. They pay you on scale, which is probably the same thing with the lifeguard. Yeah, after you do it a certain amount of time, you get a bump. Okay.
Every year.
Not based on how good you are at your job, how long you've been at your job. That to me, either you're a really good lifeguard, or you're an average lifeguard. Really good lifeguards make more money. Really good teachers should make more money. Don't you think? You've had some good teachers here. You've had some bad teachers here. You know who they are. I know who they are. My kids have gone through here. Do you think the administration knows? If they don't, they're not doing their job. That's America. That's capitalism, guys. Okay? All right. Let's get back to this. This is what Hoover would never do. This is the goal. Okay? So they're going to provide $500 million in direct assistance. Remember, Hoover would loan you money, but he's not going to give you something for nothing. Yes? Okay. This is the first time we see money going directly to individuals. Okay? Now, people that didn't like this called it the dole. Today we call it what? When people get a check from the government because they're poor, that's when they're hurt. Welfare. I didn't think it was that hard of a question. Okay. Yeah, disability is like when you hurt your back and you can't work.
What about mentally? Is that welfare? Or
Oh, yeah. Whoa, what do you mean mentally? Like you have depression, so you're on disability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we do
That
that.
counts as disability?
For some people, I think it does. Am I running out of time?
Yeah.
You guys are packing up. Okay. Now, New Dealers said that everyone was entitled. Do you think we have in our society entitlement issues? People feel like they're entitled to things that they don't earn. You know what I really don't like is when somebody says, you really deserve that. Great job. You deserved it. No. Great job. You earned it. You don't deserve it. Can you back that up? I deserve this. What do you mean you deserve this? You deserve an A in here? Yeah. Or do you earn an A in here? Or do you earn an A in here? The sense of entitlement in this country is off the charts. Okay? This was meant to be temporary. It has become permanent and grown. We get to the 1960s and Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Great Society, war on poverty, a war that we keep losing, like the war on drugs. We lost. War on drugs was 1980s. We lost. Will we ever win the war on poverty? Maybe if we increase the minimum wage to $15, we'll win the war on poverty. Or have the government send everybody a check every month for a living wage. It'll be wonderful. And then nobody will work, and the country will fall apart. Sorry. Harry Hopkins is going to be in charge of this, okay? Father Jared Lease gave us a homily about 8 years ago on how our teenagers, how they feel entitled for all the things their parents do for them. Instead of taking those for granted, you should thank your parents for all the things they do for you. Okay? Your parents work hard. You people are expensive. Yes? All right, sorry. Have a good day. Hey, what's going on?
I forgot to come in.
And take a test?
Yeah. Can I take it today?
Sure.
What